Hello, everybody. I think our, for some reason, our logo didn't start, but our intro.
Are we
But
going now?
yeah, we are. We're live. So, hi, everybody. Can you hear us well? I just confirm that our audio is good and everything is ready. So, how are you guys doing, Marcus in Germany and Keith in Seattle?
Well, here in Germany it is hot. We are expecting thunderstorms tonight and lots of rain, I hope, because we need it. And yeah, it's dry, at least not as dry and hot as in Phoenix, Arizona, as I read today, where they have, I don't know what it is in, I only know the degree in Celsius. It is incredible 48 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona. Wow, I'm happy that I'm here in Germany where it's only hot. Keith, how are you doing?
Oh, it's beautiful here. It's been, sunny days, not too hot, not too cold. I mean, not cold at all. It's you got to roll the window down when you open the car door, but that's it. It's beautiful.
All right.
So, yeah, great
Yeah,
summer.
nice.
In Union, New Jersey, it's a little bit on the hot side, but everything in my garden is set up, and I'm ready for the bees.
All right. Yeah, and what a week it was, right? And well, I've got to admit that I was not very creative, when I came up with this card, with the idea for it. But I think, nevertheless, it is quite fitting, what we have seen in the last week on social media, respectively on YouTube. Well, I have never seen something like this before, to be honest. It was an execution. It was not only an execution, it was a multiple execution, and then it was doubled. And we will talk about this, and you will learn how our points of view on this are. And it's a very different topic, a difficult topic, because in my opinion, it has many layers in it. It's like an onion, and we will try to get through the core of it all. And I hope that you will comment this in chat, and we will have a look at it and also share your views. As talked last week, we will have our discussion about the dividends, about the carbon trade, the taxes, and all this stuff. And this will be done by Keith. He will introduce us to the topic, and I hope that we will have a vivid discussion around this also. And Amos, what is your part today?
Well, I'm going to be discussing the dividends aspect for carbon and how to approach the whole carbon thing, and put a little bit of sense, stuff that you don't really hear in the media, but we kind of have to think about.
All right.
Yeah, we've got kind of a two-part thing going on. I'm going to start it, and then Thomas is going to finish it.
This is
Then we'll
exactly so.
talk.
Or
So
we're
the
gonna
topics
go
are
in and
connected.
out.
Okay.
Or
Then
we're
I
gonna
say,
go
Jane,
in
you
and out.
ignorant slut.
Come on, we are not TYT or other shows.
No, we're not. But
Yeah,
we're
fuck
better
this.
than that.
Anyway, well, last week, it is, as I said, it is hot here in Germany. And last week, I think it was Wednesday morning for me. I could not sleep. I got up, and as usual, when I cannot sleep, I'm checking the news. I'm going on YouTube, checking it. And I saw a live stream coming from Jimmy Dore. And well, as I said, I've never seen something like this before. It was mind-blowing. Okay, I got to tell you that I was not familiar with the past of TYT, for example. I learned to know them, I think it was in early 2015, when at that time they were advocating for Bernie heavily. And this is where I made my connection with TYT. I had absolutely no clue what this channel was before. And you can imagine how my reaction was to what I saw there, and I think we should start with the first clip. When it started, I think everyone who is watching us is familiar with what's going on there. It started with Jimmy Dore called it a blackmail attempt by Ana Kasparian, and it's surrounded about a very, very bad joke made by Jimmy Dore, and went further into harassment accusations coming from Ana Kasparian, which were defended by Jimmy with his views on this, and with described examples what TYT did before. To give you a short impression of what I think was the worst thing of it all, I chose only one because I think we don't have to repeat them all. It was absolutely crazy, and whoever wants to look it up again, they should go directly to Jimmy Dore's channel. Please roll the first clip, Thomas.
Ever put up this censored picture here, Jesus, okay? She looks beat. I don't care if she doesn't have any hair down there. She looks terrible. Her legs are like fatty and creamy and pale and disgusting. And then her hair is screwed up and her face looks bad. She looks so bad there that I wouldn't even do her.
Well, I think this normally goes under, I think 90s locker room talk, man locker room talk. And I could not imagine that they did this openly, as a news or entertainment news segment.
Marcus, who was she referring to, by the way?
Okay, and exactly that's the next point. They refer to in many cases of what Jimmy Dore showed to Britney Spears, and and I think this makes it double worse in my opinion, because Britney Spears at that point, she was knowingly a more or less helpless person, and she was literally lying on the ground. And they're taking a profit out of it, by stomping their feet on this person. I was, I could not believe what I saw there, But this is only the intro, my first experience where I started to dislike Cenk Uygur was a couple of years ago when he was stuck at an airport, and I think it was a Delta flight, and he behaved incredibly arrogant and pompous, and he threatened the females behind the desk, who were trying to calm down the passengers. We can discuss about the service Delta offers, but his behavior, it was over the top, and this is exactly what he oftenly shows, in my opinion, my personal opinion, when he presents news. He does it too much for my taste, and this is one of the parts why I never took him too seriously as a news person. When I finally quit TYT, watching TYT again was not long after. It was directly after they jumped ships, and when Bernie was clear that he had to give the nomination to Hillary Clinton, he directly jumped ships and went over to the Hillary Clinton campaign and promoted them. These were the things where I said, okay, this guy is not serious. He is not representing the values I would expect from someone who describes himself to be on the left. I think this explain it to myself. Anyway, let's come to the weak point. Jimmy Dore made a major mistake, I think, in his reply, in his response. The major mistake, and I could not grab it for a couple of days. And honestly, my girlfriend helped me to get this. What was his problem? He said at the time when the bad joke incident, I would call it like this, happened, and he apologized, and Anna said she accepted his apology. Everything was okay again.
Could you remind us what the bad joke was?
Oh, okay. Well, as I said, I think everybody knows what it was about. But okay, here it is. It seems that in the newsroom, Anna and her students where they watched how show was produced, and due to Jimmy Dore, she was wearing a short skirt, and at a certain situation she bent over, and everyone, including Jimmy Dore, could see her butt, including her thong, and he made the joke, a nice new skirt, Anna. And according to Jimmy Dore, everyone in the audience was laughing, and she was embarrassed about it. And he said that he felt bad about the situation, about her, that she was embarrassed about this, and he wrote an apology card to her and brought her a gift and talked to her about it. And due to Jimmy Dore, everything was cool after this, and that's the main story about this. And exactly there's the point. When he told the story in his response videos, he contradicted himself in his presentation, and this is the point. And my girlfriend explained this to me. When he was explaining the situation, he was smiling, and he was smirking about the incident. And she said, and my girlfriend says, a woman sees this as a signal that his apology was not meant. It was not what was really meant. It was fake. He was if he was sorry when this happened, I think he should still be. She said he still should be sorry about this when he talks about this today. And this was the major mistake Jimmy Dore made. And at this point, he got the TYT viewers on his side. We got another video which we were going to show, which goes even further from another commentator, and you can clearly see, they see this. They see you got to see you see this through a woman's eyes. She's seeing Jimmy Dore, and they cannot stand Jimmy Dore. They're seeing the typical stereotype, right? There's an old white or an elderly white man, making jokes about a young woman exposing herself in a certain situation. And he is smiling and smirking when he's talking about this. And this is what stucks, you know? And everything else which comes after this, what he presents, he did right. I mean, if someone would go, you know, and my girlfriend also says that in her opinion, what was going on with an Anna Kasparian, where she started the accusations in the TYT segment, you know, she said, you can clearly see that she is absolutely dishonest, but she knows how to present it. She presented it in the right way, so every woman can identify with her situation. And that's the point of it. And there, Anna Kasparian won this, you know. If Jimmy Dore wouldn't have done this mistake, in my opinion, and only present and say, okay, hello, this is what happened, and talks about this in a serious way and say, okay, and now let's look back at the harassment accusations and let us see. And he would not have even to comment each clip. He could have cut them in a row and then say in the end, okay, guys, now make up your own opinion on this, and we'll see. Good night. But you know, it was too much, you know. And this, well, there, I think this step was not a good one, you know. But I don't want to defend in any way TYT with this, you know. What we saw, what clips we saw, as I said, I could not imagine that this was possible. This was I don't know. I think Larry Flint did more for journalism with his Hustler as those guys. It was despicable. It was absolutely horrible, you know. And in my opinion, their credibility is now absolutely burned. For me, it was burned, you know, since 2016. But with this, how can they ever go on talking about women's rights, you know, or other stories, you know? And there I'm coming to the other thing, you know, they're bad journalism, and they're wanted bad journalism, you know. I saw several things about the situation in Syria now, and among this, of course, what Aaron Maté had to say. Well, I think I can trust Aaron Maté in this and other sources I read about. But then you got a TYT, you know, who goes and says, okay, we are presenting our own Syria expert, you know, and you expect that there would come something, you know, which that there would come a discussion, you know, about the facts. And then they got the guy on the screen, and it could not be more comical, you know. The first line he said, okay, thank you for inviting me, but I was never to Syria. You mean at this moment, you know, you could forget about this, you know, and they are trying to gaslight their audience, and I'm coming to the next point. Okay, I'm seeing that I'm moving a little bit too fast, because I wanted to show you a second clip first, when I talked about Jimmy Dore's mistake in his presentation. Let us see the Anna Kasparian video in slide 7, please.
Anna Kasparian used to dress, when I worked there, unbelievably inappropriately for a newsroom. She looked like she was going to a rave. The skirt, nice one time she came into the newsroom with a skirt so short. It wasn't a pencil skirt. It was like a fluffy one too, but so short that she bent over in front of me, and I literally saw her ass and her thong. She's wearing a thong. I literally saw it. Everybody saw it. And I go, hey, Anna, nice news skirt. And everybody laughed. Like, they laughed louder than I thought they would. And so it humiliated her. She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom. And I did it. And I felt bad. At that time, we were friendly. And I was just busting her balls, right, for dressing like that in a newsroom. You're going to bend over and show me your ass? I think that's a little... I'm not offended, but I think that's a little risque. Imagine if I did that. If I walked around showing my ass to everybody. So...
Yeah. And this is exactly what I was referring to. If you feel honestly sorry about this, you cannot laugh about it 7 years later. And this is exactly where he made the big mistake. With which many people who might be also shocked about what they saw about TYT, what they did in the past, But here you can also see the argument, look at Anna Kasparian, how young she was at that time, and she had to deal with a mostly male environment, in the media. And of course, I think it does not justify the German Schadenfreude she often showed in the clips, when it was attacking women who could not defend themselves at that time. I think this is absolutely despicable. But it goes into the mind, that and the other thing is, how many we are no women, we cannot feel how a woman feels who has experienced harassment and molestation, etc. And I think considering this, it was very harmful for Jimmy Dore. What I think what mostly his female audience concerns. Because he will, as we saw lots of comments on YouTube under this. What a white jerk Jimmy Dore is, etc. It did not go about the topics anymore. It was a one-sided war, and all this, it's a personal feud, and. I think Jimmy Dore acts a little bit, and this is dangerous in my opinion, like Captain Ahab when he was hunting the white whale. I think Jimmy Dore does such valuable stuff, in reporting and presenting important journalists and raising questions, including getting into conversation with conservatives, etc. That he should not. Minimize himself, by going after people like Uygur and Kasparian. He should be above this, But you could see, it's and it is easy said, if someone would come up and blackmail me or send me such a message like this, guys, I would be fuming for retaliation.
What message was that?
The message Anna Kasparian sent to Jimmy Dore, where she said he should remember what he did to her 7 years ago. Where she referred to the incident, and she wanted him to stop talking. He never addressed this topic, but they wanted, as it seems, it is quite obvious that they could not defend anymore from the constant attacks of Jimmy Dore, which in parts were absolutely rightfully, when it comes to the facts, about Syria, maybe about Russiagate, etc., that he debunked this and he ridiculed them. And that's the point, you can contradict your other media, in my opinion, but you should stand over it. A guy like Jimmy Dore should stand over it, and say, okay, they're wrong here. But often it has a little elbow, connected with this, which sometimes makes it not good to watch, and. We all know that Jimmy Dore is no angel himself. We know about what he did, at the convention where he met Alex Jones, and how fast he could run after this. And I'm also not happy with parts of his reporting about Jimmy Dore about Bernie Sanders. We know that Bernie Sanders was not the right one. He was too weak. He had no killer punch. But sometimes he does too much, but this doesn't change it. He delivers millions of tons more valuable content than TYT did since they abandoned Bernie Sanders in 2016, my opinion.
Well, that's the thing. What you've got going on is, Anna and Cenk have let down, say, the progressive community.
Yes.
And that's a known thing. So you've got Jimmy Dore coming along, and he's going to exploit work off that. And so then he puts his own personal stuff on top of something. So we got we got two layers here. We've got
More.
Oh yeah, more, but two very distinct ones where we have, the fact that TYT was really becoming a voice of empire, and that they were only reflecting, mainstream left values as typical democratic stuff, really mainstream, and if they have any future, that's where it is. They're going to have to go mainstream, and
Yes.
it won't be hard to do since they've already maybe sold out. But the other thing is, I agree. I don't like what Jimmy did, but I do understand that he knew he was on solid ground, and
Yes.
he was going to get a lot of views. And yeah, the locker room talk. Have I ever talked like that? Oh yeah. But would I again? I hope not. As you get older, you understand how women feel.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. A young man's very innocent can be innocent with that kind of talk, because they don't know what the effect is on women. They don't get it. They don't see the implications.
And
but as you grow
that's
older,
it.
you really should know better. And at Jimmy's age, to do that publicly, that was a very, very bad move.
Yes, and it was also not a good move, that Steph behind was also laughing and applauding him. My girlfriend said maybe Steph should be the one in the situation, who could understand firsthand, how it is to be as a woman, and she should have warned Jimmy Dore, But you're shaking your head, Amos. What's your point?
Yeah, I think she's incapable of it. She's a lapdog. She's just basically is there as a sidekick. Never contradicting or presenting any original point of view from her side. She's just there to cheer him on. So it's kind of, to me, it looks pathetic. But as to the this whole incident, to me, it's less jerky than it is creepy. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it seems like a creepy kind of behavior.
Cringe
more
is the
than
word.
more than harassing, but of course it's harassing to the offended party. But to get onto your point as to who TYT represent, I don't doubt that that TYT's principal people are primarily progressive in terms of their ideology. I think they've perhaps taken a slightly different tangent to it. I think there's enough place in the progressive field for a lot of a pluralism of ideas, such as crystal balls and even Sam Cedar, certainly TYT and others. I think there's space for a pluralistic field. It's not like we have to have the one party line, and that's something that's very much coming out of Dore. He would like everybody to have a party line, and to me that smells of communism and authoritarianship, and and it's kind of scares me. I listen to all these different sources, and even I listen sometimes to what's his name? I can't think of it. I listen to a variety of people on the left, and then I make up my mind. I don't wait for someone to tell me what is correct and what isn't, which Dore appears to be attempting to do.
Yes. Okay. I would like to tell you about my thoughts. I've wrote them down, and okay. Let's first go to let's roll the clip, and there we have Emma Vigilant and how she got the situation, what's going on, and yes, just roll it. We will talk about it.
Right, exactly.
So let's bring that powerful woman down a notch. That's how I'm going to talk to Francesca Fiorentini in an abusive way. That's how I'm going to talk about Ocasio-Cortez and other women. And it really just grates at him when there are women in positions of power that don't take shit, and this is how he chooses to put them down. It's textbook. And just because he liked Bernie Sanders at one time doesn't mean he has any progressive core values that are something to be espoused. I mean, the way that his fans are going after Anna and other women speaking out about this shows that this is not the same audience that we're speaking to here. This is a separate, different right-wing audience. It's a lot of right-wingers who want to say, oh, I hear both sides, so I'm going to listen to this lefty Jimmy Dore, when everything about him just screams misogynistic, right-wing, racial resentment towards Ocasio-Cortez, towards the squad. I mean, that's everything that's embedded in the way that he talks about politics. So, I mean, like, and it's not just like stupid YouTube drama, and I'm emotional about it because I love Anna and I don't like it, and I experience sexual harassment too in a very extreme way. But like, it's important because he's completely disempowering a lot of his audience who could have leftist inclinations, and turning them and red pilling them basically, and they don't even realize it. And so if anybody watches that and still thinks Jimmy is like a good guy, give me a break.
There's a point, don't you think, Marcus?
I think the following. I think it's. I'm sad. I'm sad for Emma because I think she was always a woman with a lot of courage. You know, if you remember where she went, she was down in the streets and reported about a lot of things. You know, and she did not shy away from going directly into Republicans and ask them for their opinion. You know, but I think this proves my point. You know, apart from them, I don't know in how far someone is somehow connected with someone. There's also a very sad Twitter feed coming from David Dole. I think it is exactly what I said. You know, up to a certain point, Jimmy Dore ruined it with his presentation of his narration of the apology, and you know, and when a woman, you know, as I said, experienced harassment and molestings and stuff in her own private life, then of course, you know, it's a kind of reflex, you know, that you automatically defend the woman who experienced the same thing, you know. And as I said, you know, you can argument that Anna Kasparian was young in 2008. Well, in my opinion, it doesn't change a certain character trait, you know. But as I said, Anna Kasparian presented her accusation professionally. Jimmy Dore did it not, though he absolutely executed them and showed up the hypocrisy around TYT. But let me close this, you know, to what conclusion I came, because, you know, I thought about it a lot, and I think I wrote it down here. I will read it out. I said I'm thinking on another most important level, it is not about new skirts, camel toes, Force the Vote, or Aaron Maté. It is about the question what progressivism is. And more importantly, it is about who labels and owns it. In the past years, especially since Bernie's first run, we saw progressivism got hijacked by the mainstream more and more. We saw candidates we elected in office joined it instead of keeping their promises to fight for the people. Look how badly the squad failed us. I look at the recent interview she gave at where was it? A Morning Joe. It was disappointing. It was 100% disappointing. You know, TYT is and was a big part in this game because of their reach with 5 million followers. If they really have 5 million, I dare this. You know, if you look at the ratings. They were knowingly wrong about so many things, like Force the Vote, Julian Assange, Aaron Maté, Russiagate, etc., but they did it anyway. It became TYT's business model to gaslight their audience and lead them directly into the arms of the damn establishment to take profit from this. To say it clear, TYT is neither left nor progressive in any way. And here is what happened, if you remember, when critical voices were silenced in 2015, were tried to silence in 2015, 2016, and being called naive purists. Regarding where we're at right now, we should have learned the lesson and called those guys what they really are, fakes. And TYT, in my opinion, is fake to the core. But as I said, Jimmy didn't do himself a favor for a lot of the audience who followed this, you know. And I think in the end is about who owns progressivism. And we can see clear attempts how they're watering down legislations, etc. We see a squad and other so-called progressive candidates who are obviously doing nothing but tweeting, you know, and running their mouth. And and that is the problem, you know. And if once they relabeled what progressivism is, they own it, you know. It is like, look around, you know, every big company, you know, has start advertising for LGBTQ. You know, the big ones. You know, you nearly cannot find maybe gas companies who are pretending, you know, to be the best company for the environment. You know, it is the question is, how much can you bullshit your audience? And I hope that a lot of people woke up, you know, apart from the poor presentation of Jimmy Dore at the beginning with his apology. As I said, you know, I can understand him in the end, you know. I would look for retaliate. I would look for rocket launcher, you know, when this came up, you know. But he should have been advised better, you know. And I think he should leave now what's rest in pieces of TYT and concentrate on what he really does in a very good way, in my opinion, is presenting independent voices and trying to get things on the ground.
Yeah, if I may, I think there's two sides to the coin of progressivism and its impact in the Democratic Party. You can see definitely that a lot of them are sucking content from progressives and aligning themselves, at least ideologically, more and more with progressive initiatives. Of course, not people like Cinema and Mention, but you can see that, for example, the House has voted. All the Democrats in the House have voted on the HR 1, and also on the Medicare for All, bringing Medicare for All as a vote, and so it's visible that they're imitating, and I think imitation is the best compliment, and it may be watering down things, and for sure it is watering down, but keep in mind that if you had a minority that was purely ideologically pure but had still a minority, that they couldn't achieve anything by that. So the only time that they can achieve is when they can get buy-in from more centrist or other people that previously would have not supported them, and maybe now they will support part of it. So you have to look at it as an ongoing battle, and not as there's not going to be a point where everybody in the Democratic Party is going to be progressive. It's just not going to happen.
If you see a loose cannon like Joe Manchin, you know, doing his one-man show there, you know, and seeing on the other side that we saw this a couple of weeks ago, you know, we saw a helplessly looking Cori Bush, you know, being asked in how far the squad is connected, and you know, her answer was according to this, there is no connection, right? And exactly that's it. I can only repeat myself. The people voted them into office because they promised to fight. They didn't.
Yeah.
They are trying to relabel what progressivism is, and they want to have it, to keep everyone else, as Cenk Uygur says, on the loony left, everyone. And I would like to refer quickly to Emma, what she says, what Jimmy Dore did, for the left, he was one of the few, or in comparison to the to TYT, Isadora, and not to talk about Sam Shader, who forced the vote, who promoted to do this, and the problem is they wanna do the excess journalism, they wanna stay to have the people on their shows, and they're only asking them bubblegum questions and nothing serious, because otherwise they would not show up anymore. But when it goes around the beef, and this is why I say they are fake, I went through the videos of them, there was absolutely no point of criticism regarding the squad, for anything, they're protecting them. And this is not a fucking self-described news show job, right? And
Well, that's
there you can say what you want. Is Jimmy Dore much more honest? He is. We can agree that he might be an angry white man, etc. Maybe he is. I don't give a fuck. But if I look at the content and what he really has to offer in comparison, holy shit, TYT, get off the air, And what I would like to close with this very disappointing statement coming was tweeted by David Dole.
Hold on.
He says comparing workplace sexual harassment.
Hold on. Let me.
Yeah, sorry. Please.
Play it,
Please.
Comparing workplace sexual harassment that Dore was just laughing about to a decade-old conversation about a celebrity is some next-level moronic shit. JFC, what happened to you? I have endless respect for your father, but you've lost your mind since associating with Dore.
For my taste, it's too one-sided, and I don't know what David Dole is trying to do. Maybe he wants to also profit, from the TYT viewers, to getting on their side. I don't know. I try to make up my mind, because I gotta admit, when this war started, I was absolutely pro Jimmy, but when you reflect this over some days, you also see the weak points, and coming up with two little paragraphs, well, this is not enough, and in another tweet I read today, he wants that everyone who shares the views of Jimmy Dore, etc., should unfollow him, and this is the discussion. This is the discussion we can expect for someone who calls himself a rational national.
Useful idiocy.
Sorry, I don't get it, and I think it's disappointing because I like to watch his content. In some parts, I think he was not accurate or wrong, but okay. And but this is cheap. This is cheap, David. Sorry.
I disagree. I think he makes an important point about the comparison that was drawn, and it's a tweet. You're gonna have a short 2 sentences. You can't have an essay. So.
Oh, you can send another tweet. You can put a 1 on it and on the other one a 2. So everyone would know it's a follow-up tweet.
It's not a
I
format.
repeat, I go back to this being at 2 levels. You've got what progressivism is and what people think it is, and I'll tell you what I think it is in a minute. But you combine that with this personal stuff, which really has no place in the politics at all. This is just it's personal stuff. And, keeping it all straight seems to be tough. Okay, So I mean, in my YouTube feed, my algorithms have been pushing at me all this stuff at me for a couple of weeks now, and I pretty much ignored it because I got my mind made up what TNT is, and what progressivism is. And if you want change, if you believe the world is not cool the way it is, and it's unjust and it needs fixing, and you really are sincere about that belief, then you are progressive. And if so, you will not sell out. And there may be a temptation to do it because, you know, how are we going to make change? Well, we're only going to make change if we work with other people. And the problem with that then is you know, everything starts getting watered down, values get compromised, and pretty soon you've got, you know,
Nothing.
franchise of former values. And so that's how I'm seeing all this, you know, that I actually agree with Marcus. You know, when you started this out, you talked about how you felt about Cenk, and I pretty much agree with you. For years, I see some really good reports that I really liked, and then I see some others where he was just taking a view that was really unbalanced. And then I've watched Anna. You know, she loves to be a presenter on the Jacobin. That's one of her other jobs. It's interesting to see her. I watched her interview on Noam Chomsky a few weeks ago, and you know, she's another one to figure out. I kind of figured her out in my own way. So where I am, you know, I got better things to do than pay attention to, you know, the personal stuff. And as far as Jimmy goes, I like Jimmy. I do think he's a progressive. I think Emma was totally off. She's a sellout, you know, but not Jimmy. I don't. As far as the progressive values go, I think Jimmy's got them. Now, well, being inappropriate, yeah. Well, making a mistake, yeah. Okay, he did. But
you don't think that he crosses over to the far right in some cases? I mean, obviously he's made those distinctions himself.
You know, if I'm going to put something out there, and I think in your heart, if you're truly progressive, you're going to have some weird contrarian values here and there that the other side may have, which you're supposed to oppose. And that comes from thinking about your stuff and coming to your own conclusions. You know, if you just want to be a progressive and follow everything the progressives are supposed to do, guess what? You're not. You're a sellout. You're having everybody tell you what to do, what to think. And where are your values? Where is the outrage of what you see in the world that you want different? You know, so that's
that is exactly
that's what I think.
But Keith, that's exactly what Dore would like the audience to do. He doesn't present a plethora of opinions or something. He says he attacks anyone who does not follow his logic.
Well, I say good for him, because somebody's got to do it, because you get the TNTs of the world who just want to water everything down. No, it was not okay to forget about $15 an hour. No, it's not okay to forget about healthcare for all. And so if Jimmy wants to beat that drum, let him do it.
The problem is that Jimmy Dore is very aggressive in his representation, and Amos, you're absolutely right. He is hitting hard, but the problem is, and this was shown by the incident, that he can, in most cases, he can back it with facts, and the other side cannot, and this makes them even more furious. And this is what we saw the past week, when suddenly, out of nowhere, you know, the direct damage got to Jimmy Dore for Anna, you know. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change what, in my opinion, what's really going on in the core. You know, that it is a fight about what does it mean, what are progressive values, and in how far the democratic establishment can water it down and still profit from being labeled, at least in parts, to be progressive, and they are fucking not. And that's my problem in it, you know. Anyway, it was, oh God.
You have another.
please.
Had another Twitter from
Yeah.
Kaspersky.
Don't really need to relitigate. I'm done. These are not people I trust or want anything to do with. That includes their supporters, and anyone who thinks it's okay to defend Jimmy, when he himself made this public and admitted to degrading me. By all means, stop watching TYT.
Go away.
Go away.
Go away.
Go
Go away. Yes. As the Dead Kennedys in the 80s song about MTV, I can only say, yeah. TYT, get off the air. Now. Anyway, let's move over. Last week we had a very interesting discussion about carbon and in how far we should deal with dividends. I think dividends in how far we can pollute the environment, Keith, right?
Okay, yes, carbon dividends are something that I think most people don't know about, and I want to make people aware. My number one intention in what we're about to present is to get the idea of what carbon dividends are in everybody's head. And so what I did was a few months ago, I found a video that belongs to a Canadian museum, and it's like 5-minute commercial in front of it about their donor program. And by the time you watched all this, you didn't even want to care about who was what their guest was. And, they basically, anyway, I cut that front part off, redid the video, put some, slides in it, and just explanatory. And then just for fun, I went to the website and I looked at their copyright requirements, and I was missing one thing. I was really, I didn't really care. I was going to do this anyway, but I went through their list, and all I had to do was put the web address to make this whole thing like approved by them. And so I ran back and I threw a slide in there with their web address on. So my video is kind of like official. So because I followed all their copyright requirements. But what we're going to watch, because it's about 20 minutes long, and a lot of it's kind of just, kind of in Climate Change 101. So we're going to skip that part. So I cut it down to 2 parts. And the first part is going to introduce the video. That part I haven't changed because I want to know people know what it is. And then we'll go right to the second part and play that. And then we'll see where we are. So go ahead and play that first slide, and then go on to the next one there. Let's go.
An event that took place at the museum.
If you look at per capita emissions, Australia has passed the United States, and Canada is growing. I mean, you're almost as bad as we are in the U.S. on a per capita emissions, and of course, the rest of the world. That's where the big increases are coming, because we used fossil fuels to raise our standard of living, and they want to do the same thing, and they have every right to do that. And if they don't have alternatives, they're going to do it the same way that we did, and that's burning fossil fuels, and that's what they're doing. In a paper we published last year, Young People's Burden, we show that unless we begin to reduce emissions very rapidly, we're handing young people a situation where they can only stabilize climate by sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere. And we show that the cost of that, if we stay on business as usual, is going to be in the hundreds of trillions of dollars with any of the technologies that we know about. And that's just implausible. So we're in danger of handing them a situation where there's really no, doesn't appear to be any way out. And the tragedy of this situation is it's not necessary. You know, if we would, so we looked in that paper, we show different scenarios for the future, continuing emissions increase. Oop, I didn't mean to do that. Can I go backward? Or what I meant to do was push this. So continuing business as usual, or flattening out emissions, or decreasing emissions 3% a year or 6% a year. If you would reduce emissions 3% a year, then the warming would peak at less than 1.5 degrees and then slowly decline, even without sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere. So it's still physically possible to stop further warming, but it requires beginning to reduce emissions. And the problem is that fossil fuels are the cheapest energy. They appear to be cheapest because they don't include their cost to society. Just the cost of air pollution on human health, if you would only include that, you would make the competing cleaner energies much more competitive. And instead, we're even subsidizing the fossil fuels. So the solution that's required is make the price of fossil fuels honest by including their cost to society. And you could do that in a very simple way. Just collect the money from the small number of sources, the domestic mines and the ports of entry. So it costs almost nothing to collect it. And if you would give that money to the public, an equal amount to all legal residents of the country, then most people would come out ahead, about 70% with the present distribution of energy use. And that would, and we could move rapidly on that 3% per year reduction rate. In fact, the economic studies show that if you had a $10 a ton carbon fee rising $10 a ton each year, by the end of 10 years, the emissions would go down 30%, which is more rapid than 3% per year. But you have to actually do that. You can't do it with some gimmicky thing like cap and trade, which does almost nothing in practice. Globally, it doesn't do anything. The emissions just continue to go up. So this, by the way, is the only viable international solution. We've tried the cap and trade route, the Kyoto Protocol. It doesn't do anything. But if the United States or Europe or China would decide to have a across-the-board rising carbon fee, they can impose that practically globally by means of saying we're going to put border duties on products from countries that don't have an equivalent carbon fee. That's an enormous incentive for those other countries to have their own fee so they can collect the money themselves rather than have us collect money at the border. Economists say that would work, but politicians don't want to do it.
Okay, so that was the basic idea. And James goes on from there to, talk about, actually there's an organization, Americans for Carbon Dividends, and he talks about the website, and he asks if there's some people in the audience, and there were, so they talk. So let's move on to the next slide. And I'd suggest anybody interested in this, Google, after our show's over, of course, Americans for Carbon Dividends, and you can go to their website. And so check it out. One thing they have on the website is this video, which is very short and very good. It's just a commercial. So let's play that.
Want to get something done on climate change? Carbon Dividends is the bipartisan climate solution. Endorsed by business leaders, environmentalists, economists, and scientists. Carbon Dividends will cut emissions in half by 2035, protect family budgets, and create good-paying clean energy and manufacturing jobs. It's time to end the gridlock in Washington and start solving problems together. Carbon Dividends is the bipartisan climate solution. The time is right now.
Okay. So, to keep things, we have this one. Yes, I do want to talk about this. So this is the idea. Everybody in the country would get one of these, and Marcus, you would have a different flag on yours, but if you came and visit, it'd be okay. Well, you'd be getting the money to be able to buy it, so it'd work. But what I want to do is let's click and go to this link, and it's a link that I have a public file on my website, and it's a PDF document I want everybody to see. And here it is. Yeah. So, so this is a very nice white paper that explains everything that James basically said in the video. And I just want to make people aware of this. And so this is another thing to Google, after the show, come back to this slide. And if you were to Google that title, you'd probably find it somewhere. I should probably put a link. Well, there is the link. If you look at it, you can, I don't know. Anyway, so let's Amos, why don't you take over? You are continuing this. I looked things over, so it very much dovetails with what I'm doing very nicely. So let's just keep moving.
All right. So basically, let me explain a little bit more about the dividends, because we said we debated, but it's important to understand what the proposal is and how it differs from others. So we discussed carbon tax previously in the last week, and basically there is a consensus among scientists, among economists at this point that we need carbon tax to address global climate crisis and the effects of carbon. And the reason is that when you're paying for gas, for your heat, or for anything, you're not paying for externalities. Their externalities are things that are costing someone, but they're not costing the oil manufacturers or the power energy manufacturers. They're hidden. So if people get sick from the soot, or there's climate change as a result, and we lose money on that is not built into the price. So the economists came and said, well, why don't we put that into the price? Once we actually make the price of the product more representative of the true cost, then the price is going to go up, and it will affect how people behave. It's going to reduce the use of energy and fossil fuels, and reduce emissions, therefore. So basically they came up with that. That was the tax plan, the carbon tax, carbon fees. They figured out they could do $50 easily per ton, which would make a huge difference and start reducing things significantly. And then some people took it further. They said, well, we don't have the buy-in of Republicans, and in the U.S. the biggest debate is happening in the U.S., and the U.S. is the most influential country. If the U.S. goes in one direction, it probably will affect other countries down the line. So let's address it. So what they came up with was the idea of not that they wouldn't tax the carbon, they still tax the carbon, except they're saying we're going to do dividends. We're going to give every citizen in the country a certain flat amount that's taken from these companies that are producing energy, and give it back to people. And that should have wide bipartisan support, and so forth. And so there is also the idea of gradually raising it. So you start with a carbon tax at a certain level, and then you slowly build it up every year. Then the second point is that the carbon dividend is paid to Americans, and is funded by 100% of the revenue. So everything that's being taken as a tax or fee goes back to the individuals. The point 3 is an interesting one, and that is that there's going to be a significant regulatory rollback. So in order to sweeten it, because they had a position at that point saying, well, it's going to hurt poor Americans more than anyone else. Why? Because poor Americans spend a bigger percentage of their money, of their income, on energy. So it's going to have a bigger effect. The obviously, if you raise the taxes, it's not just going to be the companies that are shouldering it. They're going to pass all of that costs to the consumer. So if you raise the tax, you pull a fee from energy manufacturing company, energy generating company. That fee is then going to be passed down to the consumer, and of course that's the case. However, here they came and said, well, we're going to give the dividends. Okay, you're going to give the dividends, and some of the point is that you're giving a flat return, so the people in the bottom of the economic layer that are normally not going to be using that as much energy as people at the high end of the economic scale are going to pay less for energy, and therefore the dividend is going to cover them and some. So they're going to make more money than they're spending on energy. It changes when you're going to the higher income brackets. But that is the argument. But still, they couldn't get everybody on. So they incorporated the idea that they would compensate for that by rolling back regulations. So, and that got a lot of industry on board. And in a moment, I will show you who's supporting all of this. The fourth point is that this is a step that they boast can be done unilaterally. It doesn't need an international agreement. The U.S. can do it right now, and once the U.S. does it, it will create a domino effect. That's the claim, because a country that has doesn't have mitigation for carbon emissions will have to pay a border adjustment fee, sell something to the U.S., for example, where there is such a regulation, such an arrangement. And so they will have to pay the difference, so that there is no advantage given to buying energy products from other countries where the generation is dirtier, where the saving on these clean aspect. So that border adjustment, because it's being implemented to other countries, say Japan wants to sell a certain amount of energy, they have to pay $100 per ton that this of pollution that this will generate. And so rather than that, they will come to the conclusion it is more advantageous for them to do the same and collect the taxes and share it to their citizens as dividends, rather than paying it to the U.S. as a adjustment tax. The problem with that is that there is no saying that they won't go the route that other things that are being taxed with tariffs are going through. So basically, they may choose to battle it with a trade war rather than go the other way and incorporate it into their own model. And that is something that's not addressed.
A quick question meanwhile. Can you please tell us who's supporting, what companies are supporting this, the Baker-Schultz plan?
So, as I said, this is the Baker-Schultz plan. So that's basically Baker and Schultz are conservatives. Here's Schultz.
No. What companies?
What companies?
You said companies would support this. I would like to know what companies.
Okay, well here you will be surprised. The companies that are
okay. Thank you. okay. Go on, please.
So that is my point. What I think is attracting those companies is the fact that they're willing to roll back legislation or regulation of these industries, which in some, I assume that their conclusion is that's where most of their cost is, and if they could skirt those issues, they could.
One idea about rolling back the regulations is to generate greater innovation. So essentially, you're replacing the regulations by the financial incentive, because this whole thing is working because everybody wants to save money.
Right. No, that's an argument that comes down the line, and I'll address that. But basically, what I think is it's kind of the detail is in the devil is in the detail, and we're willing to waive regulations. They're saying as a defense to this proposal that it's only addressing regulations relating to carbon emissions. But there are things that could be related that I don't know if it's going to cover or not. For example, exploitation of workers, natives in drilling, the pollutions of leakage or pipelines breaking,
that's a different kind of regulation. You know, I would confuse human rights with how they're drilling.
But that's a good question, whether this would protect them, whether they could incorporate it in such a way that it would protect them or not. And you do have to be a little cautious when you see people that are very conservative, like Baker and Schultz. Here's what Schultz said about it: a carbon dividend policy could spur large education, the greenhouse gas emission reductions in the greenhouse gas emission than all of President Obama's climate policies. At the same time, our plan would strengthen the economy, help working class Americans, and promote national security, all while reducing regulation and shrinking the size of government. Talking about it having a greater effect, here's their projection. Obama's is the green line. Trump's was the minus 14%, which got worse. And then you have the projection if they had the Baker-Schultz plan, which meet Paris and some. So that's their argumentation. And they have even Paulson say this is a fundamentally conservative plan, one that showcases the principles of free markets and limited government. I'm a proud Republican and believe it is important to protect those principles and always strive for evidence-based policymaking. This plan provides the roadmap to do just that. So yeah, it's I mean, I'm not necessarily against it because they're conservatives for it. That would be insanity. What I'm saying is we have to move with caution and really understand what the implications of everything is. Now, to your point as to the innovation, yeah, if you were talking, and this goes back to counter for argumentation against carbon tax, because the critics say, well, it's dividends, schmividends. What you're doing is you're raising taxes that's going to come to you. It's going to affect the citizen, and then you're going to give them the money back, but they're still paying more for the energy. So we haven't done much. It's like a sleight of hand.
Well, I think we've done I think that the change is enormous. I don't agree that we've done nothing at all. I have a jaded view about why conservatives are for this. Can we hear me?
Yeah, but let me just finish that argument that's the argument against it is the criticism. But what I'd like to correct on this is that maybe that would have been the case if we didn't have alternatives. So basically, you can buy the energy or not, and you kind of need to get the energy, so you're going to pay whatever it takes. That's not the case, though, because people are going to have alternatives in the form of green energy. Once the green energy alternatives break even at some point and you can save money, they're actually going to make more money on the dividends that are taken on carbon tax than they would pay to the energy generation. So that argument is kind of flawed. But go ahead.
Okay. My jaded view about why conservatives are for this is because we can do this and they can stay conservative. You see, you don't have to become progressive. You don't have to change your values to participate. You get your credit card, and then if the carbon's really expensive, then what you do is you don't buy any more than you have to. And if there is a green alternative, you take that. If there isn't, you minimize your impact. You consume the smallest amount of carbon that you can, because you want to save the rest of that money, because that's, and essentially, when you really think about it, this is the only thing that can work. If we have a carbon tax, without this, the economy gets depressed. You can't raise the price on carbon without compensating people in some way, because you're not paying them anymore. So what you going to do? You've got to give the money back to them. And, the details, there may be some minor details to work out, but fundamentally, this is what you got to do. But it is such a huge change that people can't wrap their heads around it. I confess, when I first came across this idea, free money? You're giving people free money? Then you think about it. No, you're not. Actually, you're giving them their birthright, kind of, because you are polluting their environment. So, and nobody's going to get rich off this, obviously, Well,
no, the
maybe.
surplus is negative. The surplus is negative.
I think it's a great idea.
That's the important thing to understand, in that the surplus is at least initially negative. So you're not really benefiting people, perhaps maybe the people at the bottom of the economic scale, because their use of energy is lower, but it will cost more. However, that's a way, like the dividends is not a way to change the scale of where the money goes, but rather to make the policies of taxing carbon more palatable to the public.
Well,
Guys,
one issue is, how are you going to set the tax? And one proposal is by, citizens committees. I think that's James's plan.
Guys, there's one thing, the idea sounds interesting, but what really makes me suspicious is, about the corporate founding members and the individual founding members. Those companies and people are not suspicious, to necessarily act in favor of green policies or green energy. I'm scratching my head and I'm trying to where is the loophole for them?
Marcus, you can relax.
Yeah, I can. Okay.
Yeah, because the James Hansen paper was taken on it in like 2017, and a bunch of activity, and then nothing. It was sent to a committee where it has been living in obscurity ever since. So, the idea that, corporations are really on board with this, don't go there. You've got some people who are agreeing with the James Baker plan. But in general, industry does not want this because who makes out? The people.
Okay.
They don't.
Okay, I got you. This would mean, if the industry doesn't like this plan, but there must be some tool of threat that they would, which would oppose on them if they would not agree to this. I can guess, right?
Well, they see where the winds are blowing. Something will have to be done about carbon. They know that. The cap and trade has failed. The Kyoto has failed. Paris is not doing enough. And they know that people are eventually, it's going to blow over. So they have to minimize the damage, and at the same time maybe score some points on something else. And that is I think what is going on here. The lack of regulations would benefit them in some ways that are perhaps more costly to them if they have to do investigation on exhaustive investigation for drilling or whatever, and now they would have a green light to do much more drilling if they like, as long as they pay the tax. Maybe it's worth it to them. I don't know what their calculation is. We don't have those brains, economic brains, that are working on their behalf, but they're of course not doing something that is opposing to their interests. Here's a clip from Andrew Young, just exactly about this congressional attempt to do, and clarifying his positions, and in a way that kind of like he unified that with his universal minimum income idea. Those dividends would serve both ends. But here.
What would Andrew Yang as president facilitate in terms of combating climate change?
How many of you all studied economics? I bet it's a popular major here. So if you study economics, you know that one of the biggest problems is economic externalities, where someone's not paying the cost. And the biggest externality facing us right now is carbon emissions. If I'm a company and I pollute, that doesn't cost me, that costs everyone. So one of the big moves we have to make, in my view, is to actually price in that externality. I'm for a carbon fee, a carbon tax and dividend, and then use that money to start moving us towards renewable and sustainable sources of energy. If you have a price on carbon and then you ratchet up that price progressively, then you'll see a lot of these companies invest meaningfully in reducing their emissions in a way that they don't right now because the money's not in it.
So I'll just stop you for a second, because you obviously have thought about economic issues a lot and in great detail, and you've written a lot about them. For people who are watching this who haven't thought that through or don't know how that works, how does that happen? Does that mean everybody gets to emit a certain amount of carbon, and beyond that you have to buy credits, or you just pay for the amount of carbon that you're emitting all the time, which forces you to actually reduce it?
So we would have pricing, the carbon fee initially would be $40 a ton. So it's immediate, and if you're emitting anywhere from a ton up, then you start paying into the system. But then you have an economic incentive immediately to try and reduce those emissions, try and streamline your operations so that they're cleaner and more sustainable.
And you would do this, you become president, and maybe you don't have a compliant Congress. How do you get this done?
Well, I'm happy to say that a carbon fee and dividend is a bipartisan idea. There are many Republicans that are behind it. It came this close to passing, even in this Congress, which is really saying something. With this president, it came this close. So as president, I believe that we can get that through, because this is something that even industry leaders have been calling for at this point.
So yeah, even Milton Friedman is on board with that and has promoted it. So there it is. I mean, you can decide on your own, but I think I'm not.
But find out about it.
What's that?
Find out about it. Everybody should find out about this.
Everybody should understand how this is structured. Here's another video that may help clarify some. It's a short.
Yeah, this is a really good one.
Yep.
If we needed a reminder of climate change, the scorching summer Europe just had in July was just the sort of extreme weather scientists say is becoming more frequent. To bring carbon emissions under control, more and more leaders now agree with one thing.
We must go further. We must strive for more. A two-step approach is needed to reduce CO2 emissions by 2030 by 50, if not 55%.
The simplest way to do this is through a tax on carbon. If carbon-intensive activities and products become more expensive, we'll consume less of them, and emissions will be lower than otherwise. But there is one big problem. Higher carbon prices can cause a big hit to the living standards of those already worse off. That's because poorer people often spend a larger share of their incomes than the rich do on carbon-intensive things, such as petrol or heating fuel. When the French government tried to increase France's carbon tax on transport fuel and heating oil, the reaction from what became the Yellow Vest movement was explosive. So here's the dilemma. We have to cut carbon emissions, but the way to do so hurts the poorest. It seems we have to choose between climate catastrophe and social disaster. What we need is a just transition to the low-carbon economy. Some French economists think they know how.
What we had in mind was just to show that it is possible to design a system that makes almost everybody in the poorest half of the population as well off or better off with the tax than without. That was the point.
This is how it would work. When a driver fills up her car with petrol or diesel, the price she pays is made up of two parts. There is the cost of supplying the fuel itself. Then on top of that is tax linked to the CO2 emitted while driving. It is this tax that most economists think should go up to encourage people to reduce their use of fossil fuels, which contribute to climate change. While people in cities have the option of public transport if a carbon tax drives up prices at the pump, people in rural areas often have no alternative to taking the car, and often don't have the means to change their car for a more fuel-efficient one. But what if the tax, instead of disappearing into the government budget, was immediately returned to people in cash?
Such a carbon tax to be completely, to be well perceived by people and also to be just, it should be designed such that the revenues of the tax do not go into the budget, public budget, general budget, but they are kept to be redistributed to people to alleviate the regressive effects.
Let's look at how this would work for a typical low-income family in France. Marion lives in a rural area with her husband and 2 children. They're not so well off. Their income is only in the second tenth of all households. They use oil heating and have a diesel car. In the scheme proposed by the French economists, Marion's family would be paying 72 euros a month more in carbon taxes than a typical family in a mid-sized town, which has electric heating and no car. That would be a big hit to their living standards, if it was the whole policy. But because Marion and her husband have low incomes, they would also receive a carbon check worth 125 euros a month. Put together, this policy would leave the family with 630 euros more every year to spend.
The problem is that the Ministry of Finance needs money, and so their incentive to put the tax and keep the money is very, very strong. And so it's more there that there is a difficulty, I think, to make people understand that this is not a financing tax, it is just an incentive to reduce emissions, so they don't have to keep the money.
The hope is that once vulnerable households see that the policy makes them financially better off, their opposition to higher carbon taxes will wane away. With the climate emergency, there's no way around making carbon more expensive. But it's only if higher carbon taxes are also fair that they will be politically viable.
I think that was very, very succinct and well done. But yeah, so basically, and so now the questions that we will have to think is just don't buy it all like hook and sinker or whatever it's called. Sink and hooker? No.
What? What do you mean?
Don't just buy everything in one like as it's presented. Think about the aspects.
Yes.
Do we do the dividends as a flat flat amount for every citizen, in which case it was going to be very minimal impact or negligible for the higher.
I got it.
Or you only give it to the bottom half, but then you may lose support of some people that are in the middle, or do you do a combination? Do you give dividends, partly dividends, and then partly invest in governmental?
Well, you know where I am on
development.
100% dividend.
So
100%.
You don't think that we could benefit from having something like the NIH of energy, where the government would develop and research energy and then make that available to the industry? I mean, that's
a separate issue. That's a
no,
separate issue.
I mean, it's not. You have a certain pot of money.
I'll explain why.
Yeah.
See, by carbon dividends, what you're doing is you are putting. I don't even like to call it a tax. I just prefer, but we have to use the word tax to explain where they do collect the money. Okay, if you are going to implement a carbon tax, you are going to ruin the economy that you are implementing, that you are putting that tax on, because the whole world doesn't have that tax. You are disadvantaging. You are putting your people at a disadvantage by taking all that money and turning it back over to them. You're making the damage to the economy the absolute minimum. If you if you only kick back 80%, you've opened the door to all sorts of corruption, lack of transparency, and you're defeating the entire purpose, which is to preserve the economy. And that's really why conservatives are for it, because you don't have to be, it doesn't matter what side or what you believe, everybody believes in saving money. And saving money will change your behavior, unless you're crazy.
I got two questions to you guys. First of all, from what I saw in the clip, they say that the money goes directly back to the individual person, right?
Yes.
So this means in the budget, there's a certain amount is missing, right?
It's
in the end. No, hold on. Follow my thought. This means you have less available in the budget because you got to pay every individual a certain amount. Okay.
No, it's the same amount.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. And the plan is to help mostly the poorer families and the poorer individual. So you got a less big budget, so you got to save somewhere, right? Money is not growing on trees, so you gotta find ways to save money, to get everything fulfilled what you want to do, with the money you calculated, which is now less than before. So what do you think? Who would be punished by this? I would like to say punished, or who's suffering from this? Who would be taxed? Who would has to pay more instead?
No, Marcus, the carbon tax is an added tax, so it's not already in the budget. It's not part of the existing tax structure.
Okay.
So it's basically whatever they raise with that tax is separate from taxation and goes directly back as dividends. So there's no
impact. It would be a tax put on the prices on the oil prices. Sorry, right?
Right.
At the point of origin. They tax carbon at the point of origin.
I see.
Origin of the generation of the pollution, not of it's the highest. You put it on the highest level, so you don't tax
you actually
drilling.
Tax the source. Yes, it's the easiest place to get it, and then everything else rolls downhill. Then you're letting conventional economy. The price of everything is going to go up. But then,
the way the proposal
you're
works
getting the
now,
tax, it's offset.
The way just to clarify, the way the proposal works now, though, is they're putting the tax on the pollution generating aspect. So it's the highest level. It's the generation of the of the electricity or of the energy rather than the extraction of the salt.
No, you do it at the extraction.
That's not what they're proposing, but
the dividend plan's very clear on that. You know, and this is like our first segment. About the ideas being watered down, being taken into the mainstream liberal, whatever you want to call it, away from the more radical, like do it this way because it makes sense.
I don't want to say that the idea is bad. I think the idea is good, but I still, I look at the names of the companies who are in this, and if you tell me now that the tax is put on the already existing oil price, I see for the moment nothing changes much for those companies, because they would get the same profit, at least when it starts. And this is why I'm asking, where are the loopholes? Because none of them, I guarantee you, none of them wants to pay more money than they ultimately have to. We saw this. How many times did we see this? And look, Michael Bloomberg is on it also, and Stephen Hawking. I know if they're referring to this Stephen Hawking. I'm skeptic, because it sounds too good to be true. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the candy is the regulation rollback. I really think that's where what they have to gain from it. That's the compromise.
All right, but we would stick to the topic, Keith and Amos, because as I said, the idea is good, But the question is, in how far will they try to get out of it, and find loopholes to get away with the business as usual?
Well, for one, that's exactly why we have to.
The French clip made the point that of course the politicians are going to try to steal the money, and that's why I'm kind of adamant about the 100%, 100%, 100%. Repeat it until you get sick of me saying it, because if you let that's how it works. That's how we lose. That's why we have done nothing about the environment over all these years, because
exactly
victory here and it's taken away.
So, and if would you say that the NIH model has failed?
Where are we? We're in a mess. Everything has failed. I mean, that's essentially the proof of why we have to do something else.
And I think in the end, sorry, I interrupted you. Go on, please.
No, I'm just the NIH has afforded us the ability to generate the COVID drugs much faster than we would have otherwise. It would have taken years, and they've shortened it to a year, just based on the fact that we have this governmental institution that's doing research for the pure purpose of research and offering it up. So I don't think that it is a bad model. I think it has to be weighed, and I see your points as well as to why you say it should be 100% dividends, but I'm not yet convinced.
All right. Interesting, it's an interesting model, but we all have our hesitations, from different perspectives. And I think we should. Do we have more maybe for next week, Keith? Do we have more?
And if we're going to cut it here, I do want to say what I was going to cover, because the next segment is somewhat timely. So let's at least start it. Mission accomplished, though. Amos and I have established that what dividends are. And
yes, so, exactly.
Find out what they are and get it, because it is a hard idea to accept. Like I say, well, first I heard of it, I said, what? No. Then you think about it. Wait a minute. This is magic. Yeah. This is magic. Yeah. Do it.
I can only tell what Keith just said, to our audience, go and do research for yourself. I hope we will definitely, Amos, Keith, you will definitely stay on topic what this concerns, to maybe get more background information. I'm very curious, my point is, if I look at the company's names, and I think it is too good to be true. You know, there must be something behind it which helps them, and maybe it really was that they had to look into the gun, you know, where it was said, you know, you can either accept this or that, you know, and then they finally said, okay, then we go with that one. But I don't know, you know, and it would be great to learn more about it from you guys.
And there are organizations that are still generating content that is anti this scheme, and one wonders who is funding those. So that's another thing to further investigate. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same companies that put their names on it that are also playing on the other side and criticizing the whole scheme, and trying to contradict the idea of taxes altogether. But it remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right, guys. Keith, do you want to tease something for next week?
Yes, I do. So since that's what I'm doing, let's kind of go through a few slides quickly with the understanding that I'll probably come back next week and redo them. So it's going to be like boom, boom, boom through them. So show the first one and I'll just say what's going on, which is number 29.
It's on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the Minnesota National Guard was put on standby, which I guess is sort of not a big deal because they've been on it quite a bit on and off since the George Floyd thing. But to me, I came across the Winston Smith murder this week and became really aware of it. And go on to the next slide here. And to me, this is a bigger deal than George Floyd. It really is. You've got Winston Smith was basically blown away by, I got some, I'll just read this here. Let me get, okay. Oh, okay. Unmarked police car surrounds Smith's vehicle as they killed him. Okay, the killing of Winston Smith, a 32-year-old black man, on June 3rd by local officers under federal command. Can I repeat that? Local officers under federal command. I'm going to repeat that again. Local officers under federal command. That's very important. Has triggered a wave of new protests in the city's uptown district. A 31-year-old woman was killed at a protest. And let's go on to the next slide. I actually went to Google Earth and looked at where this parking garage is. And, you know, that's something to talk about there. But I said we're doing it abbreviated. So let's go right on to the next slide. And, okay, what you've got here is you've got these things called fusion centers. Most people don't know about them. If you've ever become a target of investigation or a person of interest to the government yourself, you do know about them. You may know about them if I do. So anyway, you've got these fusion centers that are bringing all the, you know, the FBI, local law enforcement, all this stuff together. And what you're going to get is a mess, you know, because, and this was all implemented after 9/11. Because now you've got a, you know, this pile of, you got to make everybody happy. So you get these extremists in there running things, and then bad stuff happens. So basically, I believe an unarmed black man was murdered. And go on right on to the next slide. And I dug into who he was. And, you know, if we had the time, we'd be playing this. And so we'll actually see a video. We'll be able to, you know, read his body language. You'll be able to figure out on your own whether or not he's a terrorist. But I'm suggesting that if you are a certain kind of federal person in a fusion group, you will think he is a terrorist, and you will have incredible power, enough power to make a very bad mistake that will end in his death. So, and just to mention, he became a person of interest. You can see him sitting there with a laptop at the trial of Derek Chauvin. So he's somebody who came to the attention of federal people. So you're moving right along, and maybe we'll cut it soon, but I just want to mention that, you know, okay, go to slide 36. We'll jump ahead here. and because this just to show the story's getting deeper. Because there was a protest, and there was a car was rammed, a parked car was rammed at the protest, and a woman was killed. And it looks to be that I'm suspecting that some very, 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 very bad things happened, which as a result of the first murder, by the federal agents, and that is maybe causing some people to be very afraid of their careers, which resulted in something else very bad happening, and that was the murder of Deonna Erickson at a protest. And so, in a way, it's interesting. All this will be covered next week, and maybe we should quit it here and just move on to slide 41, and where I just want to mention one other thing I'll be covering in the future, maybe not even next week. And that is, I found out about some information about the Uyghurs in China and how these camps are working and so on. Because just to give you a quick heads up, I follow a couple guys who used to be English teachers, their YouTube channel, and they used to teach English in China, and they were able to, one's from New York, another one's from South Africa, and they were English teachers, and they were able to, until the government basically outlawed motorcycles, they were able to travel around and meet people. And so that's where kind of like my go-to for info about China. And so that'll be coming up. So yeah, I did want to say where things are coming from, because particularly the events in Minneapolis are very timely, they're ongoing, and it's being virtually ignored by mainstream media. Fox News is giving out extreme misinformation. One place I'll suggest the audience, if you want to check out any of this in the meantime, Google Unicorn Riot. Unicorn Riot is a alternative news source where I get all my Minneapolis news. So yeah. So that's what I'm up to. So yeah, we took a long time today covering these other two things, which were great, but yeah, I would like to get to that Minneapolis thing.
Next week you will get all the time you need to get into your topic.
Okay.
I'm very interested to find out more.
Yes, and about the what's going on in China, yeah, because nearly no one is talking about this. An excellent choice, to report about. Well, guys, I would suggest we go over to the satire week roundup. This week's satire roundup.
Okay.
Before we go out.
Let's roll the first one here.
Yeah. A worry 17 years from now, when our offspring emerge from the ground, will democracy...
You
okay? Do yours. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Do yours.
I worry. 17 years from now, when our offspring emerge from the ground, will democracy have vanished along with the glaciers?
My main concern? They'll be entombed under a giant parking lot.
Wow, it even sounds decent, right?
Yeah, and let me know if you guys like the thing. Here's one about
when bears emerge from hibernation. Bears are in a state of walking hibernation for several weeks. They may appear drunk, or in a slumber, until their bodies get back to normal. When humans emerge from COVID hibernation. Ditto.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I can see a lot of people walking around like that, but
yeah. And we know this, We know this in another context. I knew it. I grew up with it, when
Take your vaccine.
My grandma used to say
people in poor countries are starving for medical attention.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, when my grandma used to say, you gotta eat it all up, otherwise, there are children starving in Africa. This was the standard phrase. You grew up here at my age.
Yep.
Yeah, it was told China.
Yeah. I love this one, and this is exactly as I said. It was What did Barbara say? It's about 100. How many degrees in Phoenix, Arizona right now? Dude, you guys get toasted over there. What are you doing? You know? Wow.
How can anybody work in this? Like, especially in a poor country, you don't have AC, you don't have anything. You have to work, and it's 110 degrees. I mean, I would just like do anything to escape.
Yeah, definitely. But soon enough, we can't anymore.
Right.
Doesn't matter where we are.
Well, there's going to be places that are colder and places that are hotter.
In the rest of the oceans, maybe, you know, it's
we're all
10
gonna
degrees
have
colder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we? Amos?
I miss out ramping. I used to finish each.
Sentences.
This was good, man.
That's too big a word for Trump.
Yes. Yeah, go on with Russian Mitch.
That I don't have voiceover for.
Okay.
Perhaps we should first discuss the ransom to unlock your launch codes.
Yes. I like how he's sitting there, you know, with his hands in his hand.
Yes. Here's Biden.
Yeah. Putin is not looking for a Cold War. Yeah. Geneva.
Telling the other.
Yeah.
The
cool shades. And we are banning critical race theory. From now on, slavery will be referred to as unpaid internships.
Yeah.
Very long unpaid internships.
Yeah.
Definite.
Your entire life.
Lives, generations, you know. Yeah, Grandma Juneteenth is going to be a federal holiday. Now, if only they would quit taking away our voting rights. Absolutely, yeah. And this is the other thing, you know. I know from my girlfriend there are quite a lot of people in the Black community who honestly give a fuck about this, you know, because they say, why should we celebrate, you know, such a thing, you know, when we are getting treated like dirt, you know, the rest of the year, you know, and it's a very controversial topic.
It is, and it is performative, but then again, a lot of it is performative, and it has some significance, even if symbolic.
Yeah. Yes, and this is this is also a great one, you know. Coming directly from the desk of Senator Joe Manchin, you know. Can't we all just get along, you know, with hearts and kisses and stuff, you know? And then there's Doug Turtle, you know, burn in hell, liberals, death before compromise.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there we are seeing the, you know, just waiting for the bridges to be built and yeah, then burn it down again. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Guy. It is hot in Germany, and I'm glad that I can go now and enjoy some freshness and some cool, you know. It was fun. It was fun to have the having the show with you today. It was, I think, we hope we covered interesting topics for you. And you enjoyed it, and you will tune in next week again. And
we need 4 hours.
What do we need? 4 hours for our show? Oh, come on, no. We are nearly at 2 hours again, and well, we are going out with surprisingly with Miley Cyrus. You know, I was not the huge Miley Cyrus fan. You know, it was not my type of performance she mostly did. But anyway, you know, it's what she wanted to do and wants to do. And we cannot take from her that she has an absolute fantastic voice. And I was very, very curious, you know, about her version of Fade Into You. And I think some guys of you would remember the song. You know, it came out in 1993 and it was performed by Mazzy Star. And it is interesting how she performed it. She did it in her own way, in the Miley Cyrus way. and it is completely different to what how the original song was performed. But anyway, it is a great version, in my opinion, and I really hope, Amos, that it doesn't get us into trouble here. You know, maybe you got to delete it, because I can imagine that the instrumental part, she's singing live, but the instrumental part could maybe bullshits with us, you know, and YouTube rules. And well, guys, any last words?
That's it. Don't forget
Have a
to
good week.
share on social media, so we can expand the circle. And find us here on YouTube to if you're on Facebook, find us on YouTube if you want to be part of the chat. That's it.
All right, guys, have a good one. Stay safe. See you next week. And here's Miley Cyrus, Fade Into You. Hope you enjoyed.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.